Hey everybody, working on the Ford-A-Hoe a little bit more. Today I'm working on the mount that the base, I don't know what you want to call that, the frame of the backhoe. I'm working on the mount that this frame is going to hook onto, and this mount will attach onto the tractor and attach onto this. So what we have to work with on this mount itself are these ears here. You can see there's an open groove there and then a fixed hole there, and then similar or identical on the other side. And the way this worked on the original tractor, there was a metal thing like that went up and down, and there was a hole in the top for a pin to go through, and then in the bottom on the metal bracket there was a pin welded in. So this unit got lifted in and set on that foot first, and then pivoted in until this hole lined up. Then you run the pin through the hole. And in fact, here's one of the pins. You can see it's tapered, I imagine for ease of alignment. So if you get this hole even somewhat aligned, you can ram the pin in there and assist everything a little bit. So what I'm doing, I'm pretty much copying how it was on the original tractor. I've got this piece of angle iron. It's going to go thusly, and then pieces of flat stock over here. That'll sit there, of course, tighter together, but they're going to get welded together, and that'll make the U-shaped channel that this will set into. Now, talk a little bit more about this. I've already drilled two of the holes, the upper holes, and I'm starting to lay out the bottom holes. And I figured one of the nicer tricks that I've learned from working in a machine shop in the past is, in order to drill that bottom hole in my piece of bar stock correctly, I have to get the proper distance center to center on those holes. But it's really difficult with a tape measure, and also with kind of oversized clapped out holes. This isn't even a hole, this is a half a hole. You don't really know where the center is, so it's hard to measure center to center. Well, here's a trick. You get your tape measure and you measure from this edge down to that edge, and you take that measurement, and you know the diameter of this hole and the diameter of this, I'll call it a hole or groove. They're both 1.5 inches. So to go from this surface here to the center of the hole is going to be, that distance is going to be the radius of the hole, which is, if this is 1.5 inches, that's going to be 0.75 or 3/4 of an inch. So again, if we know the distance between each edge of the hole, we take that measurement, add 3/4 of an inch here, and then add 3/4 of an inch there. And that measurement is going to be your center to center distance. One other important thing is these stupid things are important. These stupid hole saws. This is of course what I use to drill the 1.5 inch hole. I've got 3 1.5 inch hole saws, and now I've got 4 because I had to buy this one because my other 3 hole saws were junk, garbage, shit. 2 of them were from Walmart. They work great for wood. Sometimes they work good for metal, but it was like there was no teeth at all. It just would not cut. And then my other hole saw that wasn't from Walmart was just a piece of garbage anyway. So I bought this from Tractor Supply for about 13 bucks. It's just the price of doing business. They're expensive, but this one cut really nice. You can see all these nice sharp metal shavings there. Alright, now I'm laying out the holes that are going to go on the piece of angle iron. Got the holes on this piece of flat stock already drilled. Now something important that I want to mention is that you want to keep your bearings with front and back and left and right and up and down. It's really easy to flip something around like this and get it bottom side topwards and all sorts of fucked up and backwards and all that. So what I did, let's see if you'll focus, there's a final mark there that I made and a final mark there, and that is to indicate top. And also with my Harbor Freight chalk marker, or not chalk, soapstone, whatever, mark which is the front and left side, right side, top and bottom, and all that, so you can keep your bearings. Now the other thing, I got these holes, and I've measured. I know what the measurement is from the edge of this bar into the center of this hole. But when you're drilling the holes into this piece of angle iron, when you're measuring from the corner to the center of the hole, make sure to take into account the thickness of this piece of bar stock, because the hole for this is measured from here to here, but the hole for this is going to be measured from here to there. So I measured this in a couple different places. It averages out to about 370 thousandths. So I'm going to add that 370 thousandths to this dimension here, which I believe is 2¼ inches. Okay, so I'm about ready to weld the piece of flat plate onto the angle iron. I have it all mocked up here. The last step, though, before I do that, is I made a bottom pin to go through the frame I'm making. And again, that's what hooks into the bottom foot on this base frame for the backhoe, and that's going to be permanently welded into the frame that I'm making. So I slid that in. I'm going to tack it in place, and give everything the final alignment, I'm going to put these little spacers in. I made these spacers out of 1/8 inch welding rod. Just crushed the flux off, made them into rings, so I can slide them onto these pins, the top and bottom, and that'll give a little bit of space between the ear and each leg. And the reason I did that is just to make it a little bit easier to hook this attachment on and off of this frame, and you know, if anything warps while welding, just to give a little bit of leeway. So I tacked both of them up, and of course marked them, make sure I remember which is which. I can figure it out, but it's easier just to mark it. Got some tack welds on there. Now I'm going to give that a quick wire brush and do a final weld on these. I'm going to gently clamp this just until it's tight before I weld it, because when I put that weld bead in that corner, when the weld shrinks, it's going to want to pull. It's going to want to pull this piece forward and make this gap bigger. So I'm going to put that clamp on there just to kind of hold it in place, but not so tight that it squeezes it in and just totally messes up the alignment that I spent time getting just right. Okay, so the next step in making this bracket is to put these two cross members here, and the purpose of that partly is just for rigidity and keeping everything in place, and also the points that I'm going to eventually mount this onto the tractor are going to be the areas here and here where the fenders and loader mounts onto the axle. And the distance between these two bolts is slightly wider than the distance between the two ears on the backhoe mount. So that way, when the bars, I'm going to use angle iron, this same angle iron here, those pieces of angle iron will come in and mount somewhere in this area of this cross member here, which is a C-channel, rather than mounting and welding straight onto there. Okay, so that just about sums up the fabrication for the bracket to mount this base onto the tractor. And you'll see here I just got my swing cylinder back from Dependable Hydraulics and did a fine job but I just noticed that I forgot to fill in this groove here. This is the gear, the swing gear that I fixed, but on the back side there's a groove worn in it from attached to that nut there's a guide roller inside there, and it must have been all sorts of out of whack because it made a pretty bad groove in there. So that's not a big deal, just grind that out and fill it in. But that sums it up for the bracket, and the next step, and stay tuned for the next video, we'll be mounting this onto the tractor, which is right out there. I got to put some hydraulic hoses on it first. That's what the tarp is for, covering up the open holes. And I got to move the tractor out of the way from where it is. But anyway, stay tuned for the next installment. Leave a comment, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, hit the like button, and let me know what you think. And stay tuned for, what are we at, part 4? I don't know. Stay tuned for the next episode where I'll attach this onto the tractor.